Hey guys, welcome to Blessed Mess. This is my channel where I talk about eBay reselling. This is 7 tips for reselling. And if you're going from Goodwill to eBay on reselling, that's kind of my focus point today. And here are the 7 tips for reselling. The number one thing to think about when you're new to reselling on eBay is to think of eBay as a search engine. So whatever you decide to buy, think about it's a search engine. If it's just a cool pair of shorts and they're unbranded, then that's going to be harder to sell. But if you have J. Crew women's 28-inch denim jeans new with tags, that's going to be a lot easier to list. People are going to be able to find it because it's a search engine. So number one is eBay is a search engine, and think of everything that you buy being able to, what is the listing going to look like? Number two is look for new with tags, like anything that's new with tags like clothing, jeans, those kinds of things. The value of that product just went up 10, 20, 50% just having new with tags. Also, if it's new in box, if it's still in its original packaging, it doesn't really matter if the package is from 1999. If it's still new in box, it has more value than it's been removed from the box. Number three, along those same lines, anything vintage that has a box is more valuable than the toy or item or roller skates that does not have the box. Even if the box is a little beat up, the box makes it more valuable. So vintage with a box is my number 3 tip. Number 4, brands sell. Like I said before, eBay is a search engine. So just look at brands that sell, like the National Football League, or the NBA, or your favorite college, or a certain brand that's an expensive brand. So it could be a whiskey, it could be a clothing line. Brands sell on eBay. So if you're able to find the Logitech mouse new in box, that's more valuable than some off-brand. Seems kind of simple to think about that, but when you're looking at things, you'll see folks turning things over in the glass section because they're trying to find out, is it made in France? Is it made in Italy? Is it have a certain brand name? Is this pottery a certain thing? That's what people are looking for. Unmarked pottery can be valuable, but marked pottery usually is more valuable. My number 5 tip is look for poetry books. Not the cheesy Hallmark poetry books from the 1970s. But you want to find real poetry, like by a single author that they put out a poetry book, or it could be from the 1970s. It could be an author that's from the 1850s. It doesn't really matter. If you have Emily Dickinson poetry book, people will give those as gifts. So I think about poetry books as something that's might be a sentimental item or those kinds of things. So poetry books are really powerful things to give. It could be Shel Silverstein, or it could be E.E. Cummings, or any other author. Especially if you find something that's really unusual poetry, that's something to look for. So poetry books is my number 5. Number 6 is weird sells. Weird always sells. So if you find a VHS tape that is a little bit out of the ordinary, it's a Fellini film, or it is NFL Crunch Time from the 1980s, something you just don't see very often, something that you can't find on Amazon, something you can't find anywhere but on eBay. There's a lot of times whenever I'm looking at something and it's like, oh, I found a Christmas ornament and it's Elton John. Not saying Elton John's weird, but that's unusual. So weird always sells. If you can find something that's a little bit different, handmade, folk art, any of those things sell. So number 6 tip is weird sells. If you like it and it's a little bit odd, then maybe somebody else will like it. But it does help that it's just odd. It's not it's not inappropriate. It's just odd or eccentric. So folk art kind of falls into that category. Weird always sells. Recently I got a carnival mirror from it's probably from like 1982, and it's by the band Asia, and had a big dragon on it, and Asia spelled with a Z. Asia was a band that was not very popular. They just had a few songs in the 80s, but that was a weird item. Like, I picked that up for $2 and sold it. I think I sold it for $36. So, those things, weird always sells. And I have a video about weird sells. So look for one of my other videos that says weird always sells. Number 7, and this eBay tip is a little bit hard to, once you get into eBay and you start doing it quite a bit, you have to think about how you're going to ship the item. If it's a big bulky item, you kind of have to think about how you're going to ship it ahead of time. And like, how am I going to ship this big bulky item? Or it's very, very small. Or it's a baseball card. Or whatever it is. You kind of get into a groove whenever you have DVDs or books. Those are media mail, and they're pretty easy to kind of get into the groove of that. Or a t-shirt that's, under 8 ounces. So you start thinking about the size and shape and the weight of all of your items. So the seventh tip is really about maintaining that death pile of items that you've bought but you really don't want to list because you're afraid about shipping. Don't be afraid about shipping. Just research it, go on YouTube, figure out how to send a golf club, if that's something that you're afraid to do. That's something that I have not done. I have a load of golf clubs that I got at an auction, and they're kind of all individual type golf clubs, like putters and drivers, and they're not any sets. They're just individual clubs. And it's kind of just sat in a closet. I've set all these golf clubs in a closet, and I haven't listed them because I just don't know exactly how to ship something that's bigger than a putter. So I just have to figure that part out. That's me confessing that I do have some items that I don't know exactly how to ship, but once I ship one and get used to it, it will be just like books and DVDs for me now. So my 7 tips for reselling. eBay is a search engine. Look for new with tags when you're out at Goodwill. Look for vintage items with a box. One thing that I found were skates, like disco skates from the 70s, but they had the box. Brands that sell: the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, colleges, different clothing brands, poetry books, and remember that weird items do sell because eBay's a search engine. And always think about shipping whenever you're picking up an item. If it seems really heavy, you're like, oh, how am I going to ship this? And that might determine your price of how you do that. Thank you for liking and subscribing to my channel, Blessed Mess. You can find me on eBay. My eBay store is Blessed Mess. I just want to let you know that I love you, Jesus loves you, and we're praying for you here in Kentucky.